I am Michela Carlotta Massi, postdoc researcher in the Health Data Science Center at Human Technopole. I hold a PhD in data analytics and decision sciences that I obtained in the Department of Mathematics of Politecnico di Milano, where I developed statistical and machine learning methods for healthcare analytics. I find applied statistics exciting as it challenges you to come up with new models and approaches that account for all the complexities of the domain that you're studying. Modeling complexity truly excites me. Your brain starts decomposing reality into pieces of a puzzle, and mathematics is the language to describe how they fit together to create the picture you see. Once you have that mathematical description of your puzzle, you will be able to see where to act in order to make your composition a bit different or better, and what are the most relevant pieces you can investigate to find the answers you need. Now I'm a postdoc researcher in the Health Data Science Center in the D'Angelo Antonio Ieva group. Here I am working on developing new machine learning and statistical methods to analyze different types of omics data such as genotype or proteomics, with the aim of studying the biological underpinnings of diseases or to predict individuals' risk of an outcome of interest. The healthcare field presents statisticians with one of the most complex fields of research because there are several complexities that need to be accounted for. Data scarcity is one of them, but also all the confounding factors and all the aspects you have to consider when you model human health status and biology. Nevertheless, is the fact that I know that my solutions could really impact people's well-being and improve even just a little bit their lives that makes it worth it for me to overcome the aforementioned challenges. One of the biggest projects I worked on during my PhD was a large European study in collaboration with Istituto Nazionale dei Tumori. And the objective there was to identify genetic variants associated to late side effects of radiotherapy for prostate cancer patients, and to develop a model that considered their characteristics and their genetic background to tailor radiotherapy treatment and minimize their risk of toxicity. Another interesting project I was involved on started during the COVID-19 pandemic. We had a large cohort of patients hospitalized for COVID across Europe, and back then there was still a lot to uncover about the biological underpinnings of the virus. My objective was to understand the difference between the most severe COVID cases and the rest of the infected patients from a genetic point of view. Then we were also interested in understanding how genetics could help improve prediction of the comorbidities experienced by these severe cases so that we could personalize bedside treatment and reduce the risk of mortality. The translation of statistical methods into clinical practice is always complicated. However, there's one example that are the models that we developed for late toxicity after prostate cancer radiotherapy. And indeed, one of the partners of the consortia that was working on that project with us took care of integrating these models into a software tool that is now available for clinicians to tailor radiotherapy treatment planning in clinical studies. To begin with, it is crucial to understand the question at hand by engaging in discussion with clinicians and biologists. This involves actively listening and comprehending their specific requirements. Then, I typically go into studying the relevant context. Given that I'm neither a doctor nor a biologist, it is essential for me to make sense of the provided data and comprehend its significance and the implication that it has. Without a good understanding of the context, it's impossible to design appropriate models. Then, at this point, my task involves translating the clinical or biological research questions into methodological terms. By comprehending the desired outcome from a modeling perspective, then I can start leveraging the methods that I'm more comfortable with, or study the state-of-the-art that is out there in order to come up with original or new or effective solutions. I am a firm believer in open science. Nothing is 100% original or new in science. On the contrary, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants, and it makes no sense to be jealous of the tools or methods that you develop. To make real progress in science should be as much as possible a collaborative effort. All the outputs of my work, which are mostly scientific papers and a lot of code, are open access to the rest of the research community. I would be actually very happy to know that someone exploits them to make something much better than what I did. I guess my happiest and proudest moment comes from the teaching experience that I did during my PhD, rather than research itself. I had the opportunity to teach statistics and apply statistics to several classes at Politecnico and to supervise master students for their thesis. A couple of years ago, one of those students wrote me an email after the end of the course telling me that my enthusiasm for what I was talking about in class was contagious and that inspired him to learn more. This episode, together with the reviews of students of the courses I worked on, including the course on statistics for biology I organized here at HT, these are the things that made me the proudest. We're basically building the next generation of researchers, inspiring them, and giving them the tools to do things even better than what we do now. So I believe that this is how I truly provided the most relevant contribution to the science I love so much. Research in applied statistics brings a lot of challenges, but in particular in current times, researchers in this field are forced to become very well-rounded generalists. You need to know statistics, mathematics, a lot about computer science and coding to build and run your models, but also to manage data that is usually in very complicated formats. And on top of that, you have to learn about your application domain. That could be biology as much as finance or any other. And also be a great communicator, because you need to talk to your stakeholders. This seems to turn you into a jack of all trades. And my biggest difficulty was that I had to teach myself almost in all of these different domains. I had a bit of background because of my engineering degree, but the most complicated aspects were all new to me. So the solution was to study hard, but with the goal of learning enough of the domains to ask questions to real experts and to ask for help when needed. And then finding an environment such as HT, where you can do science as a team effort, with people that has skills which are complementary to mine. And for instance, our center's data manager laughs when he sees me approaching with a desperate look, but he's always there to support us and makes possible for us to focus on what we're best at. I love working at Human Technopole. For people doing my type of research, HT is like playing in a major league. Here, the research questions I'm faced with come from the forefront of science. I can collaborate with world-renowned researchers and have access to state-of-the-art data that potentially no one ever analyzed before. This means that complexity grows, but also that my work can make a real impact in advancing science. Statistics is not your enemy, that is throwing roadblocks at your experimental design or wet lab research. It is instead a land of opportunities you might not even think about. You don't have to be a statistician yourself. Just talk to your fellow statistician and take the time to instruct them on the context of your research and the data that you have. And by doing that, you might discover that there are so many exciting things you could investigate together. First of all, learn how to talk to your stakeholders. They could be clinicians or biologists. You have to find a common language so that you can understand their needs, but also convince them of the value of your proposed solutions. Then work in teams. Data science is a team science. You cannot be an expert of every aspect of your work. Find the right cross-disciplinary environment, involve other people, and work together towards your goals. And finally, read a lot. Keep studying and stay up to date with what's going on, not just in your restricted field, but also around it. You can always get inspired by the work of others, you will avoid wasting time reinventing the wheel, and you will know which are the true current needs that you might want to address.